Hello, 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 hello. There we go. Welcome to Sundays Live, telling everybody that we're live. On this, in the United States, at least an extended long weekend. I will be answering fan questions as usual. Let's plug in our mic here. And let me know. Yes. Hello, Teresa. Hello, the United Kingdom. Can everybody hear me okay? I noticed that. Hello from Florida. Hello, Noah. Welcome. Hello, Leo in Toronto. As long as you can hear me, I am very happy. Yes, Teresa, happy Memorial Day in the United States. Windlepoons, I don't know if there's a holiday this weekend. You guys have a long holiday weekend. Here in the United States, we all have Monday off in observation of Memorial Day. Hello, PM Fine Art from Tampa, Florida. Kristen, you are in SoCal where I am. Oh, yes. So, Eva or Ava, what is the long weekend in the United Kingdom? What is the reason for that? Oh yes, Leo, Toronto is still in lockdown mode from COVID. Yes, I have a friend who's doing a movie in Canada, and they have to quarantine, I think, for 2 weeks. So today, as is usual, I alternate guests and then answering questions. When I don't have a guest, it's a lot easier to answer the questions as they come up. So let's talk about, okay, Gil, it's called a bank holiday. Great. So there is no specific reason for it. It's just a bank holiday, which I love. All right, let's talk a little bit about... yes, great. Yeah, it kicks off the summer. That's, however, whatever the holiday is, it definitely kicks off the summer. So go ahead and hit me with your questions. I want to talk a little bit about George last week, which is that was a great visit with George, who was a very spirited character. We did not get into Call Me Mom, which is the episode that he wrote. And the other one is Sleepover at Peggy's. Now, I do want to talk to Peggy, played by Amy Aquino, who is a phenomenally talented actress, and I think she was most recently on Bosch, the series Bosch, but she might have been on a bunch of other things as well. George was mentioning Ricky's Room, which as soon as I get a chance, I will go over to see Ricky's Room. And it was a very, during the series, there was no, and this I've heard from Phil on other series, there would be drinking during show night on the stage. And it's very hard, and we did not do that on Everose Raymond. It's very hard to have your... keep your timing, especially for the actors, obviously. The actors have the most work to do because they have to remember their lines and their timing has to be perfect. So, but afterwards, people, it's a very long week and people look to blow off steam. Now, in the original days of Everose Raymond, we would go to a bar called Pinot Hollywood. And Pinot Hollywood is right next to, George mentioned being at this studio for, was it called Brotherly Love or something like that? It was a show like that. So the Sunset Gower studio was the home of Columbia Pictures, which was run by Harry Cohn. So it was a very legendary old school studio. This bar next to the studio called Pinot Hollywood was great because it just felt like you were in a big living room with a fireplace and we would all go there. Now, Ray doesn't drink. Ray never drank, really, not because he has a drinking problem. He just doesn't drink. But we would all hang out because at the beginning especially, you just didn't know if the show was going to get canceled. So, and I know I keep bringing this up, but in hindsight, it seems crazy. Just like Seinfeld. Seinfeld was canceled or not picked up initially, and they did 6 episodes, but then it became this juggernaut. And everybody loves Raymond ultimately also. But at that point, we thought, okay, there's an order, I think, and next time Phil's on, they call it, we have an order for 6 episodes. And then they order 3 more episodes. And then they say, we ordered you for the back 9, which means you're getting 9 more episodes. So at the beginning of the series, you're really living episode by episode. And so it's not the luxury of once a hit show is going that, we will be here next year. This was, we don't even know if we'll be here next week. So Ricky's Room ultimately, after George joined, was a place where quite a few people would go, but you could only fit about, 8 people maybe, or 10 people, something like that. Whereas at Pinot Hollywood, you could fit 50 people. All right, so we will see. So I'm glad that you guys enjoyed George. All right, let me scroll through some of these questions. Yes, this has become the Raymond family. Karen, in Plymouth, England, it's the same temperature as it is in Hollywood or in California. In California right now, it is 70 degrees Fahrenheit, for those of you that don't like Fahrenheit. Someone else will have to do the translation. What is that, 18 degrees, 17 degrees Celsius? Wendell Poons, how did everybody find it? Did people hang around knowing it was all finished, or was maybe there a big party? I'm not clear. Let me read that question again, Wendell Poons. It might be my problem. How did everyone find Ricky's Room after the final episode had wrapped? Did people have hanging around knowing it was all finished, or was there maybe a big party? So just, I'm not sure exactly specifically. So are you talking about finding Ricky's Room? So I'm going to go back again to the hanging out at Pinot Hollywood. Once the show got picked up, for season, I want to say 3 or 4, and Patty had another kid, and we knew the show was going to be around, we stopped hanging out quite as much for a period of maybe 3 or 4 years after the show. So then we had a place across the street, which was the Dive Bar, which I told you about, where people would go up and sing karaoke. Somewhere I have to find those pictures of Doris Roberts on stage singing in this dive bar. For karaoke. Hello, Sandra in New Jersey. Wendell Poons, hit me with your question again, because I think I missed exactly what it is. Hello, everybody, scrolling down. So I want to, let's see. Okay. Donnell, some of your latest. Yes, so what kind of things do I take pictures of now? Will we ever get to see some of your latest photos? I'd love to see how your photography has progressed. The comedy writer in me says progressed sounds like it was not good before. That's how you would interpret that for comedic purposes. Yes, 18 degrees today. Thank you, Karen. So I've always taken pictures of everything that I like. So if you go on my photography page, Tom Caltabiano Photo, you can see my latest photos. I think one thing that has changed, first of all, and people that are into photography, this is interesting. If you're not quite as interesting, but all of Everybody's Raymond was shot on film. So I shot that from beginning to end on film. Digital technology in 2001, 2, 3, 4 was not that great yet. And the change over to digital really for professional photographers didn't happen in the biggest way until after Raymond ended. Now, the head of the Warner Brothers Photo Lab, who I was friends with, his name is Greg Dyro, and hopefully I'll have him on as a guest because it's an interesting perspective. of what happens in a big movie studio's photo lab. He told me that in 1 year they went from 80% film and 20% digital to 20% film and 80% digital. So that flip happened very quickly. And you can't be a professional photographer now of any, what do I want to say? You can be a specialized photographer who shoots film only portraits as your specialty, but the variance in what am I trying to say without making it boring? Oh, well. The latitude in exposure of a digital camera is so much more than in film. So in the old days, in film on Everose Raymond, I would carry 3200 Ilford film, which means it's really good in low light, but it's grainy. And then if we're going outside, I had to switch to 100 speed film. So when I would travel, I would have to carry a giant bag of all these different speeds of film, and it couldn't be X-rayed, the higher ISO films. So that was problematic. So I didn't like digital at first because there's a romance to film. And a friend who's actually he's a famous British aviation photographer. If you look him up, his name is John Dibbs, Dibbs. I was meeting with him, and he said, you got to let film go. And he said, he used to work at the Ilford factory. For those of you who don't know, Ilford is a British film. Correct me if I'm wrong. And he said, Tom, I loved film. I worked for Ilford, but you can't. And then he told me an example of what he did, which was he shot, now we're getting inside baseball of photography, but he was shooting the tail of an airplane, and he shot it with the best slide film that you could get. I'm just going to say it that way, that has very high resolution. And it looked great. It was the tail, I think, of an F-16. And the photo looked amazing. Then he compared it against a digital photo he took. And in that photo, you could count the rivets in the tail. So, and then he was shooting a Spitfire at sunrise, and he was able to catch the exhaust plumes and the sunrise. So that crossover to digital, one thing that allows you to do is the low light capability of digital allowed me, and that's when I started carrying my camera everywhere. Everywhere I ever went, I would carry my camera. There's only one or two places. Even I went to the White House, and I was able to bring the camera. They only took it away when I was just about to have a photo taken. That was many years ago. But you in the old days, you couldn't get low light photos. So I was able to get, especially with a fisheye lens, a lot of spontaneous photos of people laughing. All right, so there you go. So I like to take pictures of everything. If you go to my photo page, you'll see that. All right, let me scroll back. By the way, who saw the Friends reunion? I did not see the Friends reunion. I was on the Warner Brothers lot outside of stage 24 because Mom is stage 20, and I was there to see Mom, and it looked like a giant, it looked like Woodstock. It was a giant event for that reunion. And as I said in my last time, there's some really what do I want to say? Strict security around the Friends. I bring that up because so much talk. Obviously, the obvious question is: Everose Raymond going to have a reunion? Now, Peter's gone, Doris is gone, one of the kids is gone. But I think what Phil and Ray and maybe CBS are trying to do is a clip show just like the Friends show. So, I love all these side conversations. Heidi Bloom, 19. Have I ever tried Astro photography and stacking? I have not tried astrophotography and stacking. The closest thing to astrophotography that I've done would be shooting the moon. Yes. Oh, so Leo, you saw the Friends reunion? Great. And you enjoyed it. Great. Why is Mom an underrated show? I don't know, official king of rap. That is a great question. And by the way, a lot of shows don't get recognition until years later, very often. Now, Ray, and I'm a little biased because I'm Ray's friend, but Men of a Certain Age is a show that Ray did, and a lot of people came up to me and said, I loved Men of a Certain Age. Why didn't it keep going? Well, it didn't keep going because it was on the bubble, a term that they use in Hollywood a lot, the ratings weren't that great. And the problem was it just didn't discover its audience. So I know I keep bringing up Seinfeld, but Seinfeld was almost not on the radar in season 3 of Seinfeld. So they could very easily have canceled it, and it ended up ending its run as the #1 show on TV. So as a former, yes, so you did X-rays. I'm just cutting it. You did X-rays. So that switch to digital, yes, absolutely. If you're trying to take X-rays or pictures of people's teeth, let alone sitcom stars. So, Friends, yes, saw the Friends reunion. Karen is saying you didn't realize that Alex Meneses, which reminds me, I have to talk to Alex because I think she's going to be on a new show or a show new for her coming up. Yes, Jax did That 6. Interesting name. So let's just talk a little bit about the reason the Friends reunion happened is Friends is arguably the most popular sitcom in the world now. It has a global replay value. It's universally, some people hate Friends, so don't get me wrong. But as far as when I was in Poland helping produce a show, all the women there loved Friends. So all the Polish women loved Friends. When I say all, the girls that I had contact with who were working on our show. Seinfeld does not translate universally. And it's also in this pocket, and here's what I think is true. There's a lot of people whose prime TV watching is age like 12 to 18 or 12 to 17. So you're not driving yet for the most part, and you get, those shows really speak to you. And so I think that Friends is that demographic perfectly. Because if you're older, married, I don't know that you're watching Friends when it came out. Yes, Janice was in Raymond. Yes, Maggie Wheeler, who will be on the show. She's just a little bit busy. She played Chandler's girlfriend rather. Men of a Certain Age, fantastic. Oh, didn't like Mom. Interesting. The Chin. Can you tell me where the idea for the Chimmy Star? What is the Chimmy Star? Do I know? Am I missing that? Will I have a hair and makeup artist on? Yes. Who is asking that? Baseball 00145.40. Interesting name. So I will be having a hair and makeup person on. Yes. In the next 2 or 3 weeks, they will be on. And I'm very much looking forward to that because there's a lot, obviously, that I don't know about that. Did you have to keep time before you took any photos? The picture you got of Ray in midair is priceless. Did I have to keep time before I took? I don't know exactly that phraseology. So Ray jumping in the air, pumping his fist during the can opener episode is a lucky shot where a person who does non-technical they basically run, it sounds judgmental. The non-creative producer, they secure the stage. They hire the cameramen. They hire all this. So non-creative doesn't mean they're non-creative human beings. It's just that they're not a writing producer. So unknown to us, that line producer didn't love our line producer. So there we go. Sorry, when a phone call comes in on my iPad, it pauses. Did Ray take the photos on the model, Karen? Yes. By the way, if I don't answer your question right away, it's just because I haven't seen I haven't noticed it yet. Ray did not. So Ray's camera was working, I believe, but I don't know. I don't remember, and I'll have to ask Rhonda, who was the props person responsible for that. So I took a lot of photos for that, but I don't know. I don't remember which photos those were. I don't know if my guess is maybe Rhonda took them separately, but that is a great question. Remind me when I have Rhonda on. Was the episode The Bigger Person based on real life? What happened in that episode? Because I don't remember exactly. I'm going to drink from my my Johnny Carson Tonight Show mug here before I cough. So I don't remember what happened in The Bigger Person. Was there? I remember Somebody Hates Raymond was based on real life story. Is that The Bigger Person? You would think I would know that, but that is one of the problems. The titles don't. Sorry, I meant to say not your, but between Phil's wife. Okay, let me go back and read that so I know what it means. Let me see. How much of the relationship between Deborah and Marie is based on the relationship between Phil's wife and his mother? Okay. Phil's wife. So that's a great question. I would say not so a lot of Marie is more based on Phil's wife than Ray's, on Phil's mother than Ray's mother, I would say. The Fruit of the Month Club is a direct thing from Phil's life. It took place, he gave that funny speech about the Fruit of the Month Club at his brother's wedding. So that was too much. There's too much fruit in the house, etc. So I would say, and I don't think, I think Monica, Phil's wife, and Phil's mother-in-law got along pretty well. And actually, I'm just trying to think of the relationships. The Georgia Angle character, okay, Fred Willard's wife in the show, Hank and Pat, that character is based very much on Phil's mother-in-law. Very soft-spoken, very sincere, very, very sweet, very innocent person. Yes, okay. Noah Zvokos. Am I pronouncing that correctly? The Bigger Person is when Deborah and Marie fell out and they didn't talk for a while. Thank you, Karen. Excellent. Thank you for briefing me. So that, I believe, Phil, so that was the season ender, right? And so I think Phil wanted to have a big arc of something that happened. So that non-speaking, I'll have to ask Phil, but I don't know that it was based 100% on a real life story, even though I think we've all had people who decide not to talk to people. Okay, so the first episode of Raymond that you saw was the one where Frank and Marie backed the car into Ray and Deborah's living room. What inspired that episode? Okay, so that episode was written by Lou Schneider, and I just asked him a few months ago, we were at lunch, and I asked him about the Wallpaper episode. That's the official name of it, and I remember it because, well, I remember that coming through, but it was also our 100th episode. So the Wallpaper episode is our 100th episode. So the thing that inspired Lou to write that episode was, in real life, he had a neighbor, and the neighbor kept backing into his car. And it got to the point where, you know, at first Lou would come out and see his cars scratched and it got to the point that the neighbor was just so bad at it that the neighbor would just come over with his checkbook to write a check to cover the cost of repairing the car. Now, that, you're on a sitcom, so that is not as funny as Frank and Marie plowing through the living room. So that was the inspiration, and like anything else, and I think I've said this before, almost everyone I know, no, I'm going to check that. Everyone I know, show business, famous, not famous, has a pretty boring life. Most of our lives are pretty boring, pretty banal. But to make it exciting on TV, you have to change a lot of the story or heighten the stakes, as they say. So that's, there you go. There's the answer to that one. And it's happened, I think, it happens a lot, especially in LA where you'll hear of a car. I know they aren't bringing the show back, as Ray mentioned, with some of that cast passed, but couldn't they all come together and revisit the show for a special, like Friends special that just came out? Yes, your favorite Bob. I did mention that earlier. That's exactly what the plan is, kind of that Friends type of thing. And actually, the Friends reunion was planned for last year to launch HBO Max. And because of COVID, it didn't happen. So they had to put that off for a year. And even, I think they filmed the Friends thing April 20th. And even then, there were still the COVID worries. Let me see. The episode, Whose Side Are You On? I don't remember the details of that one also. Yes, you try and see the difference in the wallpaper every time I watch it, but I can't. Yeah, I don't know that there is that much, and the fact that Ray overreacted is such a great thing. Let me scroll back on these questions. I want to talk about, yes, in the invitation episode, Monica's face when the door opens was perfect for the situation. Do you remember how many takes it took to get that moment? Pretty impressive. So, Bobby, it was always pretty impressive. It was only one take. Monica's very good, and also every time it's 2 takes minimum. But I would be very surprised if it took more than 2 takes because Monica was great, and so my guess is she nailed it. Yes. So Leo, the Super Bowl episode. I remember it was Joe Bolster, who's an old-time comedian from New York, had the idea for that show initially, because I think you would know better, Leo, who's on the writing credits for that. But I don't think anybody ripped up the Super Bowl tickets. I think that morphed into, in real life, and stop me if I've told the story before, but I don't know that I have. In real life, Phil Rosenthal gave Ray Romano a gift of a stay at Pebble Beach. So Ray thought, Pebble Beach is such a golf place. Why don't I bring Kevin James, my friend Kevin James? Because to play golf there would be great. So that, I think, morphed from this kind of Super Bowl thing, and then Ray's real life experience of going, well, it's going to be basically his thought is, yes, I love my wife, and yes, a romantic getaway would be nice. But if it were in some place that also wasn't the place where golf is the most desired thing, Pebble Beach, for those of you that don't play golf, Paul, Pebble Beach is in the coast of California, Northern California. It's idyllic. The golf course is on the ocean. There's something called a Pro-Am there, where Ray plays every year. This is the first year he hasn't played since maybe 2005. And so it is the most stunning setting for golf. And if you search PGA Pro-Am, you'll see Bill Murray playing golf. You'll see Ray playing golf. You'll go back and see Bob Hope and Clint Eastwood, who was the mayor up in that area, playing golf. So I don't remember if Ray ended up playing bringing Kevin James, but I remember Phil was like, oh my gosh, I gave him a gift to take his wife, and Ray wants to take Kevin James. Now, to Ray, it seemed completely logical because he loves golf, and it's like, yeah, okay. So that, I think, the Super Bowl, so I don't think that those tickets were ripped up. Wasn't King of Queens IPS? Yes. Wendell Poons, let's see. Do they do 2 takes on all shows or just the live ones? They always do 2 takes on every show because you have to for safety reasons, especially back then with film, although you would still with digital. So if something happened, so in the old days, there was something called a gate. A gate is where the film goes by. So you'll hear in an old film, if they're doing behind the scenes, they'll say, okay, check the gate, everybody. And I believe, it's to make sure there's not a piece of hair. Like if you look at old films and you see a little piece of hair, a little piece of dirt in there. So if the take is perfect, but then they get back, they develop it, and they find out the next day that there was a hair in the gate or dirt, and it ruined that take, you can't go back. You can't. it's cost prohibitive. Reassemble everybody. So every single show always does 2 takes, no matter what, a minimum of 2 takes. And so, you had the people, especially in films, you have the people like Stanley Kubrick who are notorious for going, oh, we're going to shoot 20 takes of this. He doesn't say it up front, but he just goes take after take after take. On a sitcom, you want to move as quickly as possible in front of the live audience so they're engaged and they're enjoying the story like you are at home when you're watching an episode. So if they could get away with doing 1 take, they would, but it's too risky of a thing. In the Breon, I don't know which one. I like that name, even if I'm pronouncing it wrong both ways. In the Wallpaper episode, which is the episode where the car comes through the house, who fixed the front of the house when it was destroyed? So that was set, I think it's the set decorators. And I'll try and have one of them on. So we shot that scene twice. Once the day before, not in front of a live audience. Once in front of the live audience. In the 20 minutes it took, they reassembled the entire house in 20 minutes. It was a miracle to watch, and I've posted pictures. I went up into the catwalk and I shot down onto the stage as the car came through the window. So yeah, I will post a picture, some more pictures of before and after. The episode when the power went out and Deborah insulted Frank, was that based on any real life story? So when the power went out, is that the Checkbook episode where Ray screwed up the checkbook, or is that the Snow Day episode? I don't remember which one. Yes, Noah. A lot of great detail went into the destruction of the living room. Absolutely. Great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to having some set decorating people on. Karen, please say hi to your daughter, Georgina. Hello, Georgina. Georgina. That's terrible that I would mispronounce Georgina. It's a beautiful name. Was there ever a time when the audience wasn't as engaged or laughing at scenes as expected? You have to encourage them to laugh. Yes. Thank you, Teresa. Snow Day. I don't remember. Snow Day, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, people will know, was written by Frank Pines and Tim Peach, maybe, who were writer's assistants. So I don't remember. Yes, everybody, Snow Day, Snow Day. Yes. I don't know what that was based on. I'll have to have Frank Pines or somebody else. I think maybe Aaron Shore helped on that as well. Yeah, I don't know. The Checkbook episode that I was thinking about, if you remember, Ray goes to turn out the light and it goes off. That Checkbook episode is based on a real life story that I think I may have told, but I'll tell it again. Okay. When Frank was Frankenstein for Halloween, is that any relation to Young Frankenstein on Purpose? Yes, Frank. That was based, yes, that was a joy for Phil to do, and they couldn't make him look exactly like Young Frankenstein. They didn't want to make him look like it, but yes, absolutely a nod to that. And here's a little piece of trivia that I don't think I've talked about. I wrote an episode with Cindy Shupak and Steve Scroven called 6 Feet Under, where Ray is worried that he's shrinking. We took the exact speech that Peter Boyle gave in Taxi Driver and put it into Everybody Loves Raymond. See if you can find that. That is a real Easter egg for those of you. Yes, Leo. Did I take all those pictures of Everybody Loves Raymond knowing one day after the end of Everybody Loves Raymond I'd be showing them to everybody? No, I did not at all, because this didn't exist. The internet barely exists. Snow Day, Ray, Phil, and Kathy. Oh, that's interesting. Then what am I thinking of? Yeah, that's very interesting. So it's probably just written by Kathy, is my guess, and the credits are created by and based on are Ray and Phil's. Makes sense. Goodbye, Wendell Poons. I guess you're leaving, but I didn't see when that happened. Did someone give out condoms at Halloween for real. That was a Steve Scrovan idea that I think I mentioned. That idea was from season 1, but the show was not a hit, and CBS wasn't willing to risk airing a show of a grandfather handing out condoms on Halloween. So the show was not able, Phil wasn't able to do that show until season 3. That's a great question. I don't know. We'll have to ask Steve Scrovan, but I know that was the idea from season 1 because I think that someone had colored, condom wrappers. Hello, Karen. Yes, Cindy's name in Modern Family. I think she was on it for a season or 2. Cindy Shupak was Deborah's mother, Catherine Hellman, based on a real person. Yes, ish. Carrie the Ann. Where are you based, Carrie the Ann? And here's why I ask. I think it was based a little bit on someone on Phil's side of the family who traveled to exotic places and was very standoffish. That sounds mean, but a little bit more cold, let's say. And so, okay, so Carrie, you're not related to Phil's in-laws, brothers' in-laws, because I think that's who it was based on. Because if you guys remember, one of the seasons, I think it was the first season, it might have been in the episode called The In-Laws, Peter Boyle, Frank goes, it'll be more fun than Vietnam. Now, they were going to Vietnam, and in 1996, which is, what are we at now, 25 years ago, Vietnam. The thought of going to Vietnam didn't sound good because the association was the Vietnam War. So that got a laugh, but that was, I believe, based on Phil's brother's parents, so who are, I'm sure, delightful and lovely people, because I don't want to get Phil into trouble. All right, I see. Goodbye. I'm saying goodbye, Wendell Poons, even though you might be gone. I want to talk a little bit about that. I posted that photo, that Noblex panoramic black and white photo. Did everybody enjoy that? I'm holding that film camera. It's a German camera, and what happened was, when the show got postponed, the finale got postponed because Patty Heaton lost her voice. For those of you, by the way, you have to see The Last Laugh. I've mentioned it a couple times, and the guy who directed it, Jonathan Buss, who I'll have on here, he had something called a wide lux camera. I don't have one within arm's reach, but I'll bring one next time. And they were amazing photos. And I had amazing black and white panoramic photos he had taken of the set of Everose Raymond. Now, I had taken every angle. I was up in the rafters. I was, there was no angle I hadn't shot, but I hadn't seen this perspective before. So when that happened, that Patty Heaton lost her voice, we basically got an extra 10 days or something that delayed the finale. So in that time, I wanted to get a wide lux, which is a Japanese-built camera. And if you look up Jeff Bridges, he published a book of the wide lux, of him on movie sets using the wide lux, and it's really cool. So I called my friend who worked at a camera store. They didn't have a wide lux, but they had something called a Noblex. A Noblex is a German camera, and it's developed by a guy named Cornelius Scholl, who I ended up meeting. But they had the camera, and it was used. But I was like, I have no time to look for a new one or a wide lux. So I got the camera, and in those 10 days, I took 2,000 photos of black and white panoramic shots. And the beauty of that is, compared to a fisheye, so I didn't have a fisheye back then, but a fisheye distorts everything. So if you notice, the pictures are super wide, and you really get a feel for what it was like to be in the studio when I'm standing behind the door, the table. Patty's talking to me, and then when the finale happens, when that final scene happens, I take these panoramic photos, and there's no distortion. So, and the way it works is, the film is wrapped around a half of a cylinder, and there's a little slot, and it goes like this. It goes right across and sweeps past and exposes the film progressively. So there you go. So that's the Noblex panoramic camera, and that's why it's such a unique thing, because it's like 140 degrees with no distortion. But on Instagram, I have to stitch it together so you really get it. Appreciate the magnitude of it, and that's why you have to sweep left or right. Have you talked about when Frank tried to fix the stairs and fell through them? I'm wondering how they did it. Yes, Marianne. That was based on Jennifer Crittenden came in and said she was having sex with her husband and injured herself. And somebody, I think her father-in-law said, was concerned about it. And she felt bad because she couldn't tell her father-in-law that it was from having sex, because it would be embarrassing. The actual stunt fall, and here's what I want to talk to you about in the future when I get him on Instagram, is there's a lot of questions about the tissues episode where the fire happens. Okay, so one of the things that they did, and I'll post this picture and I'll get back to the stairs, is I'll post this picture, but you see this little line, like it looks like a clear, so this is the worst example, but it looks like a clear tube on the counter where the fire is. So I'll post this picture. There was a guy off camera with a propane or some other flammable substance turning that on and turning it off. So when it was done, the fire stopped. So these were professional special effects, stunt, etc. guys. And the stairs was the same way. Now, if I remember correctly, because I asked Phil and he couldn't remember, Peter did his own stunt, and I think he fell onto, it was a couple mattresses or something like that. And I think they think they dropped him on a hydraulic thing, but I'm not 100% sure. But I'll find that out. Let me see. Before digital, did you have any losses of film or pictures of the set and show? Any disasters? Heidi Bloom 19, again, great question. No, the answer is no. Now, I don't know if any of you know this story. This is let's say a more serious thing, but Robert Capa, who landed at the first wave in D-Day, and the only photographer to land at the first D-Day, and Spielberg's use of his pictures to really set the tone for Saving Private Ryan are they're very important photos, which is an understatement. And Life magazine was waiting for those photos. He shot, I think, 5 rolls of film, and they brought them back to England, and the editor wanted to rehearse going from the development area to the offices where you could send them to the United States to be posted in Life magazine. And when he got back, they're looking in the green room and in the dark room, and they're like, "These are amazing photos." And what happened was, in their haste, they overdeveloped and destroyed every single photo he took, except for, I believe, 11. So that is a heartbreaking story of the loss of you've risked your life at the first landing in D-Day. I had none of that. The pictures are not quite as urgent, but the only thing that would be like that is, and again, a lot of inside baseball here, but if I shot film that was pushed to a different speed and developed, and they came out kind of cloudy. So there you go. I hope that doesn't get too far from sitcom talk, but I've never lost any film. And the truth is, and you guys will be the beneficiary of this. I have to scan all the negatives. So a lot of like I just posted today a photo of that curtain call for the toaster episode, where you see Ray's brother on the right, you see a very pregnant Patty waving. That is a picture of a proof sheet through a loop on the iPhone. It usually would be scanned. I would usually scan them, which is a much more elaborate process, but I don't have my scanner set up, nor have I had my scanners set up for about 10 years. But when I do, then I'll be scanning a lot more of those photos. So the downside of film is that you can't duplicate like you can digital. The upside is film is pretty bulletproof, especially once it's developed. My hello, Hank and Pat story. Now, Hank and Pat store, is that your real store? Is that coming from Everett Raymond? I'm very curious. Your favorite episode is where Ray urges Robert to dodge the wedding invite, to bodge. Oh, that must be a term. I don't know bodge. Is that a British term? Yes, that is great. I have a lot of favorite episodes. One of my favorite moments in an episode, I think I mentioned this before, is when Ray approaches Frank and is asking him about when he's insulting. When he's saying is that it's insulting. And it's kind of like Frank is going, yes, I basically mean that to hurt your feelings. It's just a funny dissection of when somebody's hurting your feelings. You know, you usually don't have the gumption to say, are you trying to hurt my feelings then? But there's so many episodes. It was really... whose idea was it to have Raymond characters on The King of Queens? I've recently started watching The King of Queens, and I loved seeing Raymond characters. Yeah. So Debsky, how are you, Debsky? That is crossover is a very common way of trying to get better ratings. So at that point, you know, if you have a hit show and you have one of the characters from the hit show onto the other show, that is potentially a ratings boom, and the audience enjoys seeing those worlds cross. So that's CBS's idea. Phil doesn't want to do that, and I don't know who was the showrunner at King of Queens, but you generally don't want to write. They're harder to write those type of things because also you're putting. Phil has no control over what happens in King of Queens, and so you're putting your characters at risk of being in a not good show. They also could be in a great show, which, I mean, King of Queens and Kevin James might be one of the funnier people on the planet. Bodge equals mess up. Hank, is that a British term or am I not good in English? Was there a microphone change, says Maleficent Eyes. Was there a microphone change starting season 7? Everything sounded more clear. And also the way the lines went changed too, much more structured. I don't think so. So I think the mics, I'm not saying your observation might be right. The mics were the same, the Sennheiser MKH416, which is a very industry standard mic, especially back then. Now it's been replaced by more modern Sennheisers for the most part, but it's still a industry standard mic, the MKH50, I think, or the MK50 or something like that. But that's interesting. So the writing didn't change, but perhaps the sound mixing did change, which it might have been better. So Petria Bruno. Or to botch, yes. Is the Frog Woman based on anyone real? Yes, it is. It is based on a real date that Ray's brother had in real life. The actual eating of the frog, the eating of the fly was made up by Ray, but Ray's brother in real life went on a date with a girl and went back to her apartment, and it was filled with snakes. Snakes everywhere in the tub. There was a lot of stuff. And he did go out the window. Was the model based on anyone's experience? Yes, I believe Nettie Paw Print. And maybe someone will know. I believe that was written by... who was that written by? That might have been written by Leslie Cavaney, but I think Steve Scrovan talked about this thing that came to his... I think Scro is from Ohio or Cleveland. It's where it was a scam, just like that. So I'll find out. And there's also a couple of modeling agencies here in LA that I think take advantage of parents who want their kids to be stars. Jennifer Jean Bronwyn. Did I ever get a chance to ask Ray if he really wanted a monkey? He always mentioned on the shows. I think I will ask him. I think monkey is a funny word, and the idea of a monkey is funny. Yes, yes. I love the Thanksgiving episode when Pat dispatches the injured bird. Excellent writing, Karen. And they put in the play with Ray playing Squanto. Was that Peter? So funny, yeah. And that was based, I think Jeremy Stevens wrote that episode. And I think it started because Jeremy Stevens' wife in real life rescued every possible animal. I think she would rescue an injured cockroach if she had a chance. So I think he came in with that idea. Perry, Bruno, has any actor ad-libbed a line? Raymond pretty much only, and I did. I've talked about that, and I'm happy to keep talking about it. But the scripts are so structured, and everybody's depending. The cameraman, the switcher. I'll post a picture of the switcher in her booth so you can see what she's looking at. The switcher is looking for lines, so everybody's keying off of lines. When do the cameras move? When does the switcher do a different feed to the audience? So even if you had Robin Williams and the world's greatest ad-libber there, you just can't so much because it'll screw up everybody else. Everybody will be like, the cameras will be like, when do we move now? Because they're not saying the line. So, but Ray, we used to make up something called second takes. Yes, Teresa, did Ray's brother move out of his house? Meaning, did Ray's brother move out of his parents' house? Yes, ultimately he did. But when the show started, he might have still been living in his parents' basement, actually, is where he was. Ray is trying to deposit money. Is that based on a true story? I love the music in that scene. The bank scene where Deborah's queuing up to these are definitely British terms. To lodge a check spelled Cheque. In the U.S., we spell it Check. The bank scene where Deborah is queuing to lodge a check and Ray is trying to deposit money, is that based on a true story? I love the music in that scene too. Yes. So that is an episode that I wrote called The Checkbook. I think that's what you're talking about, right? So Ray is it plays out like a silent movie, and Ray's trying to get the money in, and then Robert comes along, and then a cop comes along who's actually Ray's brother in real life. Is that the episode you're talking about? It must be. Even though I wrote it, I just want to make sure. So that was based on real life where Ray, and I might have mentioned this before, Ray in real life worked in a bank, and this is public knowledge. Ray liked to gamble, and so in the U.S. at that point, there was something called a passbook savings, okay? And for those of you that are older, you know you would deposit into your bank account. I'm looking for something that resembles that. You deposit in your bank account, and you would have in your passbook, oh, okay, here's $20 came in here, and $40, and you would see the exact amount of money that you had. So in real life, Ray had basically lost all their money and fabricated a passbook. And so his wife would see that passbook in real life and be like, oh, we have whatever it was, $6,000 in the bank. And then all of a sudden she realized that she was wiped out. And so that checkbook derived from that initial thing where Ray screwed up or deliberately did something. So Phil, I think that was the first episode I wrote alone. Ray and I wrote the finale to season 1. Phil said, listen, money is so boring to write about. So we know if he takes over the checkbook, he's going to ruin it. So let's own it right away, that he just ruins it right away. And then also Phil said, we have to get a scene where Robert is the cop that comes along and sees Ray trying to do that, which Ray and I said, well, it seems like a big coincidence. And Phil was like, well, the audience demands it. So yes, is it a coincidence? Yes, but we're in the land of sitcoms. Wow. Yes. M, you have a passbook saving from National Community Bank in Vernon, New Jersey as a kid. Yes, the Checkbook episode. The music in that scene is called Satin Sounds. Boy, I wonder if Rick Marotta made that. I don't know. And who drove the Saab that drove past in the early episodes? I don't know. Where were the were there a Saab in the episode? Wow, we are almost out of time again. Was the Italy episode actually filmed in Italy? Yes, portions of it were filmed in a lake just north of Rome. Let's see. Yes, Peter when he is stroking Miss Puss. Yes, Chris Elliott is brilliant. Yeah, Paul Rubens was not available for the episode, and so Phil had to replace him last minute with Chris Elliott, who we all loved. Hank, you visited the outside of the houses when going to New York. That is a big detour from Manhattan. Do you know why those houses in particular were chosen? It's funny because I'll have the line producer on, Lisa Helfrich Jackson is her name. I think it seemed they were across the street from each other. I don't know if those houses were deliberately shot just for Everett Raymond or that was stock footage, as they say, and they combed through exterior locations of multi-level houses. So that's a great question. But yeah, for those of you that don't know New York, Manhattan has an island to the east of it called Long Island, and their houses, the real houses, are out in Long Island. All right, I have to wrap it up. A few last questions. We will have a guest next week. We're going to be talking to many, many people, including a makeup person, which will be very interesting. All right, let me see. That's the most expensive piece of music cleared for the show. My guess is Jungle Love because it was used in the opening credits. That would be my guess. When you write an episode, who converts it to a script? Karen in Plymouth. You write it as a script. So when you're writing the episode, you're writing in script form. We all use something called Final Draft. And so you're writing, when you write a 2-pager, it's 2 pages and it's just paragraphs like you would in any word processor. So it's paragraph, paragraph, paragraph. Once you're done with that, then you open up Final Draft, and Final Draft has, all these templates. Now, we had our own template, but sitcom template. You open it up, and now you're writing interior, Ray and Deborah's kitchen, first line, boom, Deborah. Or Ray comes in, hey, Puddle Pants, boom, next line, Deborah says something, and that's how you write a script. And if you write more than 5 pages a day, 5 pages, it's really a miracle. So, and a script is usually about 40 pages at least for a at least for a multi-camera sitcom with the lead actor being someone named Ray Romano who speaks very slowly. So that's why sometimes it's only like 35 pages. Yeah. All right. Great. Yes, and Ray lived in Queens. His parents lived in Queens. All that happened in Middle Village, Queens, but the network moved it to the suburbs because they didn't think America would relate to something so city, which is kind of funny because the King of Queens, which is Kevin James, who is from Long Island, was based on, was him. They put him in the city. Didn't make sense, but yes, network decisions. All right, everybody. See you next week. Have a good extended weekend if wherever you live has that. And thanks for those great questions, and I'll try and get to all your questions during the week as well. All right, see you next time.